What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure that you like and subscribe as you tune into the channel, check out the content. And with that being said, I want to speak on this back and forth that Stephen A. Smith has been having with Jaylin Brown, right? And I've been listening to a lot of people, a lot of different comments and everything about it. And I want to say something that most people that I haven't heard anyone say about the situation that's going on with Stephen A. and Jaylin Brown, right? Because what Stephen A. did, in my opinion, he just exposed the fact that he is a mouthpiece for people like the higher ups, and because by that I mean this is not Stephen A.'s first time threatening an athlete or talking down to athletes or putting them, like he's made a career out of putting certain athletes in a negative light. And then when, like if an athlete speak up or come back at him, then he'll threaten you like he threaten him like he's doing Jaylin Brown now. He also did the same thing with Kevin Durant. And basically what he is doing, and he's like I say, he's the mouthpiece for somebody else, but basically what he's doing is telling people to, telling these guys to shut up and just stay in their place. Whereas though it's okay for Stephen A. Smith to say it, because it don't look like it's politically incorrect when he says stuff like this. But let me who was commenting? LeVar Arrington, right, was commenting on it. And he said some stuff about it, some things about it that I want to react to and come back. And like I said, I want to add my input to it.
All right, so we were talking briefly about the Jaylin Brown, Stephen A. Smith feud, which is just weird. It's Jaylin Brown probably should still be playing in the postseason. Instead, he's duking it out with Stephen A. on Twitch or whatever streaming platform he's using. And Stephen A. went after him yesterday and responded and said, "You want me to start reporting on things within the organization, talk to your teammates, sponsors, etc." So I ask you, LeVar, what are we doing here?
So, and look, let me cut that off. So when he started talking about your teammates and your sponsors and messing with Jaylin Brown's money, which this is not the first time that Stephen A. has done this, started messing with people money and making comments about guys like doing contract negotiations and stuff like this. He's famous for for doing that. And I believe that ESPN used Stephen A. Smith from time to time to go after certain athletes in the in the sports world. So because there's not going to be as much pushback if Stephen A. Smith, an African American, he's African American, and most of the time this is who he go after, the African American guys in the league or professional athletes, and he says certain disparaging things. Whereas though, if this had to come from somebody else like Lebatar or Max Kellerman or somebody like that, it immediately would get a lot more pushback. But I think that people and have been for a long time hip to Stephen A. Smith, and he just continues to do this, right? But this is a way for big media and owners and managers to go after players when they don't agree with like the stance that a player take. Then they'll go through the media and put certain stories out, and then somebody like Stephen A. Smith will do it. Now, the thing about Stephen A. Smith, he also thinks that he's bigger than the athlete. Like he's like the athletes come second to him, which in my opinion, Stephen A. Smith get it wrong. People don't, he's living and feeding and eating off of the athletes, just like, everybody else in the media is. But he lets it be known that, he'll mess with your money. He'll paint you in a bad light. And, it's not even real reporting. Basically, it's more so like opinion based what Stephen A. Smith does.
What's happening? This just doesn't feel like this is your run of the mill player, reporter, not happy with what you said. Now we feel like we've got some threats that are being levied out by Stephen A.
Yeah, I just think that at some point, lines have gotten blurred. Like there's a professional courtesy that should be present. There should be an understanding of what one in their profession is supposed to do, whether that be the pro as the athlete or whether it's the pro as the media.
So you heard what LeVar Arrington said right there, right? I don't think that the line has been. Well, I think the line has been crossed, but I don't think that this is a new thing. I think that it has always been a situation where the media is like I said, is used to manipulate athletes and keep athletes and keep athletes in their place. But Stephen A. Smith go to the well so often and do this against so many different athletes that it's just obvious. It's obvious that this is what media thinks about Stephen A. Smith. Because if what Stephen A. Smith is doing was not cool, it was not acceptable, then he wouldn't do it. Certain people or certain subjects Stephen A. Smith will stay away from. That's because he know that he don't, he's not speaking solely for himself. So he's very careful about what he says and about certain people. But like I said, when it comes to minority athletes, African American athletes in the league, whether it be the NFL or the NBA, Stephen A. Smith just always seemed to be able, he willing to go all out against you. And this speaks to, in my opinion, a larger picture of how certain people in the media are used to, to shape narratives about players. Remember, like Stephen A. Smith, when Kevin Durant said the same thing, like, you don't want me to, to put certain information out there, or you don't want me as an enemy. I just think Stephen A. Smith, like I said, it's just all about how the media, in my opinion, as a whole, feel about these athletes.
I think of a guy I have such an admiration for, and so many others as well. And you cannot tell me that this would ever be the way an athlete would handle things with him, or he would handle things with an athlete. Guy by the name of Michael Wilbon. DC guy, like covered, like was in the locker room quite a bit for the Redskins team. I saw Mike Wilbon after every game. Michael Wilbon was such a professional. And that's just the name that comes to mind because I think of the relatability factor. Like Stephen A. Smith is one of those guys that you say, all right, he probably has built his reputation off of his ability to relate to the athletes.
Now, I think that now with social media so prevalent, like back in the days, I think that reporters probably knew things about athletes, but they kept it to what the athlete was, how the athlete was performing on the court. So if you had issues maybe in the locker room, or if you had issues off the field, maybe, you like to gamble or something like that, or they may knew about a mistress or something like that, like reporters wouldn't go there, or they wouldn't talk about certain things publicly. But now it's to the point that they don't even really care about the athletes, because there's so much money to be generated on social media. And I just see this as another revenue stream, clicks and views, and a way to get more attention to your platform. And like I said, that's what Stephen A. Smith is all about. It's all about the money to him. Stephen A. Smith will throw any athlete under the bus. And, it really don't matter. Mike Wilbon is one of those old school type, guys who respected the players. He respected their craft. And he just reported on the game. He would give his honest opinion about how, these guys performed on the court. But Stephen A. Smith, He'll get personal with you and throw you under the bus, mess with your money and everything.
He was covering as he was climbing the ladder. I think when egos get involved and the blurred lines are very clear, it establishes what I perceive as there's a lack of respect that's involved with what's going on now. And that was, to me, that was created by this whole group of guys that are kind of the now old heads of the industry, like Skip, Jason Whitlock, Stephen A. You know, those types of guys, they built their reputations on arguing and you know, debate media versus journalism.
And I don't know, maybe part of it is maybe these guys in media don't feel like they can get the attention with just, you know, just covering the athlete, covering like what Jaylin Brown do on the court. You know, these type of things that go on, you got to admit, like they bring attention to the network. They bring attention to Stephen A. Smith. And like I said, it just generates money. But they are willing to, Stephen A. Smith is willing to throw these guys under the bus. And it's just so obvious. And really, you have to really feel bad for athletes who are in the league now and coming in the league after, you know, from now on, because it's probably, I don't see it really getting any better, because in order to get the attention of the audience, it's got to be about now more than just basketball. It's got to be about beefs. It's got to be about like having inside information on these guys and then being able to put them in a position where you know, almost like putting people in compromising positions, right? So yeah, this just exposed. If Stephen A. Smith did not have a green light to do this kind of stuff, because we know that Stephen A. Smith, certain people he won't say a word about, but athletes, especially African American athletes, Stephen A. Smith just go hard on them. And so that's my take. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to leave a comment, and I'll check you all out in the next video. Peace.